Hey folks, I spent a fair amount of time, at least a fair amount of time for me, at the workbench this weekend, working on my entry into the 2025 Formula One group build, which is a 1965 BRM P261, all built around a fiberglass resin shell in 1/32 scale from Dave Jones. And previous installments, I worked out what I was going to do with respect to the front suspension, which was kit bashed from a Scalextric Lotus 25. I've got BWA wheels. No, I'm sorry. I've got wrench design wheels. I've got BWA inserts, Paul Gauge urethane tires. I'd carved out the body shell. I had made a bottom for the monocoque chassis out of plastic card. I had sourced what I was going to use as the basis for the rear suspension. Again, pieces from a Scalextric 1/32 scale Lotus 25. I've got the wonderful Graham Hill figure, resin figure, 3D printed from Immense Miniatures. He's almost done. I've got to add Dunlop, I think Dunlop, maybe Goodyear, maybe Firestone. Anyway, a little badge on his chest and the London Rowing Club oar decals, and of course the forearms and hands. I started constructing the pieces for the cockpit, a scratch-built instrument panel. That's the basis. Those crossed rods there are the basis for the fuel filler. There are the aluminum ferrules for the injection trumpets. And I've trimmed everything for the windscreen except taking out the center section. But the more I thought about it, the more I was concerned not about the way this rear suspension looked, but just the sturdiness of really building a rear axle system and getting everything squared away so that it was level. It's not an issue with a slot car, scratch building a slot car. Well, it shouldn't be, with a jig and all of that good stuff. But I wasn't really sure if this was the right way to go. So I thought I would try some experiments by stripping down and seeing if I could modify one or two scratch-built slot car chassis that I'd done in the past and see how they might fit with this model. So my first step was to partially deconstruct what's called a bear dog chassis. It is made out of spring steel. It was designed by my friend Chris Wright many years ago, and I used quite a few of these spring steel chassis kits for Formula One cars, open wheel cars. It's got the beautiful advantage of having the lower A-arms, both front, or the radius rods and the A-arms, and then the front A-arms already joined to the chassis construct. You have to solder on the uprights at each end, and it makes a lovely little chassis. I found several of these that I had put together. First step was to basically remove the engine mount panel. Don't need that because no electric motor is going in the back there. So it's squared up, and I said, let's take a look at the fit and see how it all looks. Well, that plastic card bottom of the monocoque sits in real nice because the bear dog chassis is perfectly flat. This could fit really nicely. So that answered that question. Now let's try a body shell fit. So the good news is the body shell drops right down in place. I had to do a lot of carving and trimming, of course, but it sits there very nicely. The bad news is the wheelbase for the Bear Dog is fixed. It's fixed at 75 millimeters, which is about 4.5 millimeters too long. So the front and rear axles are spaced right out to the edges of the openings. And yeah, I'm being a rivet counter. I could get away with it. Yeah, I could do it. I mean, I could do whatever I want here. But no, unfortunately, this chassis is just a little too long for the body, in my opinion. Okay, let's try option 2. Okay, option 2 is a brass piano wire, brass rod, scratch-built chassis that once upon a time had my BRM P261 slot car on it. Of course, I've removed that. I have cut down the engine mount. I cut off the guide, the, what do I want to call it? The mount for the slot guide, cleaned it all up, and the external springs, rear shock springs, are still there, which I had kit bashed and attached long ago. And the only thing, if this all fits, that I would need to do is just create some very thin out of plastic sheet A-arms, upper A-arms for the front, and it might do the trick. Now, because I've still got the plate for the engine mount, a portion of it still there, that piece, that plastic card here will need I'll either have to remove that, no big deal, or cut and section off the bottom. Again, that wouldn't be a big deal either. But let's take oh, and the other good news about this, because I already measured it, the wheelbase is just over 70 millimeters long, which is the perfect scale size for representing the BRM P261 in 1/32 scale. So let's take a look at the fit. Okay, I shouldn't use the word perfect, but I'm not going to get a better fit than this. And I'm very pleased with the way that this looks on this second scratch-built chassis. And so that's the way I'm going to go and proceed from here. It's kind of fun doing all of this stuff. Everything is trial and error, but that's what makes doing, in my view, a bit of scratch building / kit bashing so fun. Thanks for watching, folks.